I want to thank everybody for joining us for our first meeting of 2021. And today we have a great presentation that we'll be hearing from Ed from Maricopa County on their workspaces and what they have going on.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining me this afternoon, and let me kind of get you caught up on where we're at MCDOT regarding the what we call the MCDOT Connect Workspace. Version 1.0, obviously it's going to go through a lot of different iterations as we go through, because just like most of the other DOTs introducing their workspaces, you know, as the workspace gets tested and as people internally use it, as people outside use it, consultants use it, there's going to be items that are going to have to be corrected. And actually, I want to tell you that we have it up on the website now. I'll show you, but kind of ran into a couple of issues this morning with it. And we're going to post a new version Tuesday, right after Martin Luther King Day. So if you can hold off, unless you want to play around with what's there. We've actually got some issues with the cross sections that I need to get straightened out. So, and there's a couple of level assignment things that need to be fixed as well. But having said that, I'll show you what we've got. Just want to talk a little bit about the MCDOT environment here. We have standardized on one platform. We're only using OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition. So we don't have any standalone MicroStation Connect seats. This prevents internally any version mismatches, because you know that MicroStation comes out with their enhancements in the Connect Edition couple releases before OpenRoads adopts that foundation product to create their software. So rather than have that mismatch, just that, you know, everybody can have OpenRoads because it actually has all of MicroStation in it, and it makes it an easier situation for us to manage here. So and we are supporting within OpenRoads Designer the MicroStation workflows as well. So you can actually create your drawings and such the same way you used to in MicroStation and or, you know, the inroads MicroStation combination, as well as the new way of doing projects, you know, taking advantage of the OpenRoads technology. So that's one of the things we decided to do. One of the very, very, very important things is that we're only supporting it from OpenRoads Designer Release 3 and up. But of course, right now it's 10.09.0091. The schema, the way that the files are created are different in Release 3 than they are in Release 2. So what happens is that everything that's in the OpenRoads Designer, or actually in the MCDOT Connect Workspace, has been upgraded to Release 3. And if you wanted to take it back down, there's a downgrade civil utility that's now included in OpenRoads Designer Release 3 in the back office. And so you can go down, but if you're going to use the workspace, you have to use Release 3 because it won't work with anything lower than that version. Very, very important as well, power inroads and inroads. You can't use any of the support files, any of the DGN libs, any of the DGNs, any of the cell libraries, any of the information that comes from the V8i series of the software cannot be intermingled in any way with the OpenRoads platform or MicroStation Connect, if you will. There's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, the precision in the new files is 10 times higher. So what we used to have is 1,000 positional units per foot is now 10,000 positional units per foot. And so when you try to mix those two environments, there's going to be a lot of mismatch of resources. For instance, line styles, they've all been recreated from scratch to take advantage of the new resolution with positional units. Also, all of the text styles and the dimension styles and the various labeling and annotation features that are in OpenRoads Designer or in the MicroStation Connect, or the McDOT Connect workspace, all take advantage of annotation scale, which is something we never took advantage of in the past. So things have changed dramatically as far as OpenRoads is concerned. Now there's on our website, and I'll go to the site just real quick. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the workspace deliverable. You can set it up for standalone. I'm going to be showing it in a standalone configuration, but it's also it can also be set up for client server installs. I'll show you in the installation guide where we talk about where to change the pathing, and then you can just move the resources to the locations that you want to use. So it's not just limited to a workstation's install. Another thing that we've decided to do, which is not typical for probably most organizations, is we decided to keep the organizational resources or our standards all within one location, rather than having separate workspaces for different projects, and you know, creating a lot of identical or a lot of duplication. So all of the organization standards are all located in one place, and you'll see that when I show you the workspace. Any new resources that you create within a project can be placed in a DGN support directory, which I'll show you where that's at. And when you create a new work set within the new workspace, it'll create that DGN support folder for you. So the project directories that we have a standard one that comes with it, and it can be used as a template for future projects, or you can create a work set from the workspace or from the OpenRoads Designer workspace page, the starting page. There's also an entire user directory, and it supports our function keys, our button assignments, how we want people here in our organization to work. That doesn't mean that you can't go into that user area and change, you know, those assignments. It's just that we're trying to standardize, you know, how we work. One of the things that we know happens a lot with the workspaces that are developed by Bentley, seems like the MicroStation folks don't talk to the inroads folks, and so they don't use AccuDraw. And AccuDraw is very important for our MicroStation people as well as our civil people, so we make sure that our user interface has that in it, and I'll show you that as well. We've decided to go away from, gosh, I don't know how many seed files we have, but we had one for every single discipline. And now we only have 2 seed files. We have a 2D seed and a 3D seed. And they have the geographic control system already established for Arizona Central. It's EPSG:2868. So it's something that you don't have to worry about. So if you're designing within our workspace and you're working at state plane, you should be able to very easily export to Google Earth or other programs as well. Just again, the McDOT interface supports AccuDraw. We also have the McDOT tools. We have some custom tools that we've developed internally, thanks largely to Marty Robbins. Thank God he's on our team. He's done some tremendous work with some of the tools. Now, the only thing is that these tools do have, they only, a lot of them only work in our environment because you won't have access to the GIS servers that we do in order for loading up raster images, aerial images, and those kind of things. We also have a utilities line style VBA program, and I'll show you that. That has all brand new resource files for line styles and multi-line styles. And we also have all the new print styles that we use internally are now available to you, as well as one which is a utility print style that will let you print the sheets with all of the utility line styles printed in the color that they're supposed to be, so they can actually stand out. And then we also developed a lot of level filters. I think we have over 1,000 levels because we've kind of taken the same approach that a lot of the DOTs have, and that is to create a hybrid environment that takes into account Bentley's standards and also the DOT standards. So combining those has obviously created a lot of information. And so we have some level filters in there to kind of limit the levels that are being used specifically for that discipline that you happen to be in. So if traffic is working, they'll have be able to see the traffic levels. So we have some ways to change that as well. So right now, just go ahead and take a quick look here. But first, I'm going to go back a slide. I'm going to click on the link here to go to our website where our CAD support is. And this is www.maricopa.gov/3580/CAD-standards. And here, we've always had the section for V8I, but now we've added a new section called Connect. And down at the bottom, we have the installation guide, which I'll be opening up here in a second, and the workspace. Now, the workspace is really large. I think it's 135 meg, but it has all the resources and all the everything that we're using internally here. So I'll take a look at the installation guide, and so you'll be able to download this, and it talks about the workstation only installation. It's a very short guide to take you through actually setting up the workspace. You'll see that the workspace is actually one folder called MCDOT Connect Workspace. Then we have a folder called MCDOT Connect Projects, which is where you'll put your projects in. It'll be easy from that folder to zip them up and send them in when you're finished with the project. We also have MCDOT Connect User. That's going to be where all the user preferences are. And then we have one folder called Organization Civil, and that's where all of our resources are. That's where the entire workspace is. And then we have a file called mcdotconnect.cfg, and that's the file that actually gets placed in your C drive under program files. Actually, it's right here. Let's see. There's a specific folder that it needs to go into. So this goes through the unzipping of the program and such. But and of course I'm not going to see it here real quick. But oh, here it is. So that file, the MCDOT Connect CFG file, goes into your workspaces folder under the program data for OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition. And before you do that, you'll want to go ahead and edit that file to point to the locations that you want to store the various information. So let me see if I can get to that part real quick here. Okay, so here we have this is the standard location. If you look in that a file, that mcdotconnect.cfg file, the civil organization root, you'll see here it is C:/ is the way it has to be shown in the configuration file. But MCDOT Connect Workspace or Organization Civil, you can replace this to go to, if you have a Z drive or a Y drive, and then you can put the Organization Civil in that location and just point it there, and it'll look for it there. It's the same with the As you can see, we share the same place for the workspace, so you're going to see you want to go ahead and duplicate that same path here. And then lastly will be the location for the project. So you'll want to be able to point that out to where you're going to put the work sets at. And then as far as the user configuration, there are two variables, USDN home preps and USDN home root, which need to be pointed to where the preferences are going to be for your users. So as long as you set those things up, you should be able to fire off the software and get started. So I've already downloaded the software, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of the presentation. And as you can see here in this folder, I have off my C drive, MCDOT Connect Workspace. Here's my projects. There's a sample project that gets delivered with it, which is TT0000.cfg. You just rename those to your project. Just have to keep it with just this name. So you don't add the project information to the folder. You have to keep it just to the name. Otherwise, because this information actually gets used to populate the sheets when they get published. So you'll want to not, elaborate too much on these project numbers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the software. And here we go. And of course, that file, the MCDOT Connect.cfg file, has been placed in the program data folder under OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition. And again, you just follow the installation guide for that. Okay, so take a little time here. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and change to the MCDOT Connect folder, or the workspace, and you'll see that it automatically sees the TT000 work set. So I'm going to go ahead and just start and create a new file. And when I do that, it's already going to point to the location where the DGN files are located within that project. And then here I'm going to use, go to Browse for the seed file, and I'm going to use the 3D seed file, because you can see we've only got the 2 seed files now. And I'm going to create a file very quickly. I'm just going to call it sample terrain. So this will be the terrain file. And we'll just kind of build a quick project. Shouldn't take very long. And take a look at some of the different features here. And I think loading files and such through the presentation seems to take longer for some reason, because this usually doesn't take this long.
Yeah, we've found that as well. It's taking the extra bandwidth on your network or something.
Yeah, that's what's happening, because it's pretty quick on my machine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to not do too many fancy things, because it's going to choke this thing up. So, so I'm inside the workspace, and you can see here under the workflows that we also have MCDOT tools here, and I'll be going back to this in a second when I start doing adding a little bit of information to my corridor. But to start out, I'm going to start out with OpenRoads modeling. I'm going to go to terrain. I'm going to go ahead and click from file. I happen to have a DTM from one of our projects here that I'm going to go ahead and use to use as a foundation for my geometry and for my corridor. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. You'll see that the projection is already set for the 2868 for Central, Arizona Central. I'll fit my screen, and so this is the boundary of the terrain model. I'm not going to turn any of the triangles or the contours or anything like that on, because it will probably choke with the bandwidth. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to go ahead and click and start a new file. And this file is going to be a 2D file. And of course, we're supporting the federation of files that, that Bentley has been talking about. We are going to establish a standard naming convention for these files, and that's something that we're working on internally. Right now, this is going to be my geometry file, and I'm going to save that, and this is a 2D file. Okay, now that I have the geometry file, I'm going to go ahead and reference in my terrain file. And I'm going to reference it in coincident world. Hit the screen, and then I need to activate it. So I'll select it, activate that, so that now the default 3D file, the default 3D model has been created. And then I can go ahead with my view control, plan in 3D. I'll put this as an isometric view. Okay, and then I'll also, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and put in my feature definition. So we've done a lot of work with the feature definitions. So here under alignment, we use the center line construction. And I'm going to go to my geometry, and I'm just going to create some horizontal geometry, but I'm just going to do it with by PI. And I'm just going to accept the defaults, and you'll see that I'll just draw something in here real quick. So remember, I'm not a roadway designer, so it's not I'm not trying to do anything here that's practical. So so I'm going to go ahead and select this. Actually, this element, you'll see we in our feature we do color the arcs different than the linear portions, so that you can easily see the transitions. Under drawing production, we have element annotation. So I can go in here and select my alignment, hit reset, and it will go ahead and annotate that alignment. Now, it looks a little funny because we've got a lot of numbers in here and such. What we've done is there's only one annotation group that can be applied to an alignment. So we had to get fancy with the level display, something that Chuck Lawson has offered as a solution. So we adopted it. Basically, when the geometry's been labeled, you basically just turn off all of the major and minor tick marks and labels, and then you just go back and turn on the ones that you want. So major 500, major 500 labels, and then for my minors, I can go in here and say set it for 50, and you can see that looks a lot better. One of the other things that we did as well, we've got all this annotation that comes off of this. We went ahead and put view independent text. So I'm going to rotate my view. You'll see that the curve data actually stays horizontal. So when the layout is done for drawing production, that curve data label will read left to right regardless of how the view is rotated. So I'm going to go ahead and do an unrotated view here. And I'm going to go ahead and do a vertical profile for this. So I'm going to go ahead and select this and select my vertical profile, open up view number 4. Of course, my terrain should show because it's active, and it is. And I go back to geometry, and I'm going to use profile, simple profile by PI. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here, 300 on the vertical curve parameter. And I'm just going to start here. And again, I'm just not really concerning myself too much with design or anything like that. Just something that will work for the presentation. And you can see there's my vertical profile. I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I will activate it, and it will show up in my 3D view. And there it is. Okay. So basically, I'm done with my geometry for now, and I'll go ahead and save my settings. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file, and this is also going to be a 2D file, and this is going to be for my corridor. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name here to corridor. And then once the corridor file is created, we're going to do the same thing again. You're going to find that as we keep building, the files become like containers for the information, and then you can go back to each one of those files to make changes. I'm going to go ahead and attach my geometry file, coincident world, and fit this. And you'll see that right now all I see is the alignment. Of course, my levels are not set properly, but I can take care of that later. But I can select the reference file, I can change the live nesting, and now I can see the terrain, right? I can change my nesting depth to 2 or 3 or 4, and it'll allow me to see more reference files that are stacked inside there. So I'm going to leave the stationing the way it is. We'll fix it later. But I'm going to go ahead and add a corridor. So I'm going to go to corridors. I want to create a new corridor. And I'm going to select this alignment, reset for the active profile. And there's my corridor. I'm going to do a template drop. Actually, that should be, let me see. Actually, I've got some project templates in here. I'm going to go ahead and select the one that I have for default. I'm going to set this at the beginning, set this at the end, every 10 feet. There we go. So there's our template drop. The only problem here is that I didn't activate the terrain, so let me go ahead and do that. So it's the end conditions aren't working. So I'm going to activate the terrain, and it should process it. Okay, it should be. Let me reprocess the corridor. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my reference file, and I'm going to turn off the 3D geometry, and that leaves me with all the line work. Now, I did find that for some reason our cut and fill lines aren't showing properly. That'll be fixed on the 19th, but the cut should be one of our custom line styles, which is cut. There it is. And then we also have the fill line style, which oddly enough is called fill. So let me go ahead and turn that on. There we go. Okay, so now we see the cut and fill lines. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save settings here. And then I'm going to go ahead and create another file. And that new file is going to be our sheets container. This is just going to be called sample-sheets. Save that. Okay, and I'll go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go ahead and attach the corridor file. Again, coincident world. Oops. And fit the view. And I'm going to go in here and also turn on live nesting. And you can see as I add depth to my nesting, I get to see the terrain model now as well. Okay. You need to activate the terrain again in this file. And we'll need to also go to our alignment and open up the profile so that we can actually cut some sheets here. So there's my vertical profile, and here's my horizontal. And if I turn on my 3D view, you would see the 3D as well. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to fix the leveling here very quickly. So going to Home, Levels, to the underneath the corridor to geometry. Here's my levels. And I'll turn on 500, 500, and ticks minor 50. There we go. Okay, I'll do a quick save settings here. Okay, so we've got the corridor there. And one of the things that I wanted to show you as well is that everything is annotation scale. And you'll see with regards to, in fact, I might as well just go there right now. I'm going to go to MCDOT Tools. And in the MCDOT Tools, you see we have tools for placing line styles. So if I go into, say, for instance, gas right here, I could pick a generic gas line, and you'll see that the scale of that gas line is appropriate for the scale that I'm working on. And the software is smart enough to know that if I go from, let's say, a 2-inch steel line, and I go to a 16-inch steel line, it already knows that it has to be a multi-line, okay? And then the other thing is that if you were to go to the drawing production and change your scale from, right now it's set to 1 inch equals 40 feet. If I change it to 1 inch equals 20 feet, everything changes, including the utility line styles. But for instance, the multi-line line style, if we were to measure from here to here, it's still 16 inches for the diameter, but the text does get larger or smaller depending on the scale that you're going to ultimately print to. I'm going to go to 1 inch equals 40 feet, and that's what I'm going to use for this. One other thing I'm going to do real quick is place a few more line styles here from MCDOT Tools. See some water. So 6-inch. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you the print style for utilities. Let me go with some irrigation or sanitary. Okay, I think that's, we'll do one communications, electrical. Okay, there we go. And I'll go ahead and close these little boxes. And we're ready to go ahead and create some plan and profile sheets. So I'm going to go to Drawing Production, Name Boundaries, and we have drawing seeds out there. Actually, I'm in the sections here. I want to go to Plan. We have some that are Plan and Profile, and we also have Plan Only as well. So I'm going to use the Plan and Profile 40X. And I'm going to tell it not to create the drawing because I have to create the plan first and then create the drawing when I go to the profile. I'm going to select, actually before I do that, we're kind of running out of time. So I'm going to have to, I was going to change the start station here, and you can do that with the geometry tools. But I'll go ahead and select it, and we'll just take it from here. So I'm laying out the boundaries. There's 3 of them there, and accept that. And then I'll go back to my name boundaries, and this time I'm going to do profile. I'm going to use the plan and profile 40X. I'm going to do it from the plan group that I just created. Okay. Wants to know where's the profile view. I select the profile. It goes ahead and matches what I have there. And I'll go ahead and accept that. Okay. And I didn't enable create drawing there, so I should have done that. But I can go ahead and bring that up here now. So I'm going to say, show the create drawing dialog box, and then create the plan and profile drawing. And so here, is where I can name the plan. And we have an annotation group for the plan annotation. We also have an annotation group for the profile. Of course, the one we want here is the 40x for the scale we're working in. We're going to add this to the sheet index. That way, later on, you want to use print organizer, you can create a print set. So it looks like everything's fine. Everything's kind of preset as part of the configuration setup that we did. So I'll click on OK, and it's processing. Okay, it usually ends up at the last page of the sheets when it cuts them. I'm going to go to the sheet index here as soon as it comes back to me. I'm going to go to the sheet index, and I'm going to go to Plan 1. And here's my sheet. Some interesting points here is that, for instance, you'll see that the line styles for the cut and fill, and for the line styles for the utilities don't show up. And that's something that we need to, working with Bentley to see if we can't get this to do this automatically. But right now, we actually have to go to the plan and profile that's attached and turn off the line styles from showing based on the active scale. And you can see now, by turning that off, I have my my utility lines, my cut and fill look properly, and they look right. Also, we have a grid that we use on our sheets. I'm sure for those of you that have worked on our projects, we actually recreate that grid when we do that. Also, one of the other things that happens is we look at the project number. It's been drawn from the folder that we created. That's why I say don't get too verbose, because it won't fit in here. It numbers the sheets, and it also totals the sheets. So as you add more to the sheet index, it'll take care of that. Okay? So let's see. So that's sheet number 1. Let me go ahead and show you the print style very quickly. If I go to printing, you now have access to all of our print styles. So you can see here we've got black and white. This is our standard for creating a PDF. I'll go ahead and click on OK. I'll go ahead and print that to a file. And the workspace already knows that it's going to go to that project or that out folder. I'll go ahead and tell it to save. And then I'll select the print style again. This time I'm going to use the utilities print style, just so you see how that works. And print to file again. And this one's 001. And now I'll go to that folder, and that'll be under TT000 out. Here's my 2 sheets. So I'll open up the first one. And you can see the gray values for the line styles, the grid that we use. There's a few things that we need to clean up. By the way, I'm not going to have enough time, but you know, we can go into the various drawing models and fix the annotations, add additional annotation, add additional labels. That's all there as well. And then this is the sheet that was created with the utilities print style. And as you can see, it went ahead and colored the utilities so that they stand out. So just a couple. There's a couple of print styles in there for lightening up the raster image. So there's quite a few things that you can kind of play around with and see how that all works for you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and finish the presentation and give it back to Mark.
That is excellent work, Ed. Thank you very much. And in realizing that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff Marty did and probably others within your organization. So I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. Since we're running short on time, I'd suggest, do you mind if we share your email, or should we have them send us the emails and we communicate around it? to you, Ed, or what would you suggest?
I suggest they use mark.schneider at, no, I'm sorry, no, that's fine. You can actually, you can use my email, eduardo.mendoza at maricopa.gov. And then just put in the subject line, .connect workspace, and that way I know that you've got a question regarding the workspace. That way we can take a look at it as a team and see what we need to address. Please, so you don't have to deal with the frustration that I deal with, don't download the workspace until next Tuesday.
You have a lot of applause and comments in the comment field about the presentation.